for everybody in the Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association, great to have you this evening. It looks like we've got 20 participants currently, and that's counting our presenter as well. Yeah, I think it says 20, counting myself and Chris. So great to have everybody tonight. We'll probably get a few more, Tim. The club has over 60 members, and I don't anticipate all of them being online tonight, but we'll have quite a few. And our club is in the last couple of years, we've tried to get much more active. And one of the things we've done is we have our work days to go out to our repeater sites. We just rebuilt a repeater site, and we have a YouTube channel that has a series on what we call the abandoned repeater site. We're also looking at building repeaters. We're finishing up building a repeater this week, as a matter of fact, if the weather will cooperate. We just had an ice storm. I don't know how much of that is hitting PA where you are. And then the club is also trying to bring in presenters like yourself. We had Dr. Wright initially. We've had Callum McCormick over in the UK present for us last month, and then we've got you. And I think we have another DX engineering staff member doing a presentation for us in June. So, and big part of this is active clubs draw more members. And with the YouTube channel and these presentations, we have a Monday night every month, the third Monday of every month, called Hands On with LCARA. That's what you're presenting for tonight, is our Hands On with LCARA event. So I want to thank you for joining us, Mr. Duffy. K3LR, he's been in the hobby a very long time. If you haven't looked up his QRZ page, I think you'll be impressed. And watch the YouTube video on the drone footage that he's got of his farm and his antenna farm. He's got some amazing stuff there on his farm. And it's taken him years to acquire the equipment you see behind him in the awards and the antennas and so forth. And I just want to thank him again for spending about an hour with us tonight and letting us know about antennas and building antennas and how they might be projects that we want to get into here at our club at LCARA. So Tim, I don't want to talk over you. I'm going to pass it on to you. Thanks again for being with us tonight. And we'll probably go about 45 minutes or whenever you're tired, and then we'll have a question and answer session at about 45 past the hour, and then we'll try to cut it off at about the top of the next hour, if that's okay with you.
That'll work, Brian. Thanks very much, and thanks for the great introduction and the invitation to join your club meeting here this evening. And also want to shout out to Scott Wright and thank you for the recommendation. And Scott and I have become very good friends here over the years. And I'm also, I work at DX Engineering, where I lead a team of very talented amateur radio operators that are involved in design, construction, assembly of our own line of products, as well as we have a great team of sales associates that can help you have more fun with amateur radio. And that's what it's really all about, is this is a hobby. But sometimes hobbies can can take over your life. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about antenna construction here at K3LR. I'm going to talk about what I've spent the last 34 years building here at K3LR, and hopefully in this slide deck and my descriptions, maybe you will get an idea for something you can do in your shack to make your station perform better, to have more fun, that kind of thing, maybe work a little bit more DX. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And let's see here, we are going to pull up, I think that's the one. There we go. And let me know when you see the slides.
Yes, sir. Looks great. Looks like you've gone full screen. Looks really good.
Good, good. Okay, so this is when I was 13 years old. I had just passed my general class test. I was a novice at 12, general at 13, and passed advanced and extra at 14. Remember, this was back in the days you had to go to the FCC office. And so I did my general at in Pittsburgh, and I had my father drove me down there. And in between the CW test and the theory test, I was talking to the kid who was next to me, and his call at that time was WN5JWT, later to become K5ZD. And so I've known Randy Thompson for almost 50 years, another great contest operator, and also is on the CQ Worldwide committee. But CW is my first language. I fell in love with it at 12. I'm on CW every day, making contacts. And so amateur radio has been my life and continues to be the thing that I get most excited about in this world. K3LR currently is 65 miles northwest of Pittsburgh on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. It is in between Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Ohio, Akron, Ohio, and Erie, Pennsylvania, and sits right on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border and right adjacent to I-80. If you've ever driven I-80 from Ohio into Pennsylvania, on the right-hand side, south of I-80, my property butts right up against Interstate 80. So frequently we'll have people that stop at the Visitors Welcome Center and walk over to see the antennas. The secret of this QTH and making antennas work really, really well is how the terrain impacts the performance of the antennas. And I don't sit up on a mountain, but I sit up on the top of a very nice hill that drops off very fast going to Europe. 75% of the QSOs that we make during DX contests are with Europe, 10% are with Japan. And so this very fast drop off to the riverbed is what gives us a very large signal enhancement that works on both receive and transmit. The land is pretty flat going to VKZL and the Caribbean, but there's only a small number of QSOs there. So we don't suffer any disadvantage that direction, but we have a clear gain advantage going towards Europe and Japan just because of the location. And looking at the northern part of the property, there is a 5-element array for 160 meters. It's actually a 3-element parasitic Yagi array, and I'm going to talk about that. And in the middle are 2 4-squares. You're looking straight down on 2 80-meter 4-squares that are spaced 5/8 wavelength apart, and you get 3 dB more gain with the second 4-square in the picture. It's broadside on Europe, and then it doesn't look that big, but I'm going to show you this massive 40-meter tower that's at the bottom of this photo. In the middle of the property, where the house is and the barn, is a 4-high stack on 15 meters of 7-element Yagis. Also, the 10-meter run station has 32 elements, comprised of 4 8-element Yagis, and then the 20-meter stack is a 4-high 6-element configuration. Looking at the 40-meter tower, and there's a lot of things to note on these towers. They're all guyed with Philly strands, so that's non-conductive guy wire, so I don't have to worry about guy wire interactions, and I don't have to break things up with insulators. This tower is made by Pyrod. In fact, all of the towers here at K3LR are Pyrod towers, and they're solid steel legs, very strong. This is 24 inches of face size, so it's quite big. And there are 3 full-size 4-element OWA Yagis on 40 meters, one at 260, one at 190 feet, and one at 120 feet. And notice that the antennas on the sides of the tower are on ring rotators. That allows rotation around the tower, but you have to carefully plan it so they don't run into any guy wires. And there are also antennas on here for 10 meters and 20 meters and even a 160-meter receive antenna. But when you total it all up, 138 square feet of wind load that this was designed for. And neighbor relations are very important when you're thinking about antennas. This is what that 40-meter tower looks like from my neighbor's house. So it's very important to make sure that you have good neighbor relations and try to be a good neighbor. And again, another view of the tall 40-meter tower. And down on the bottom of the 40-meter tower is the 10-meter antennas. There's 2 of them there, and a pair of 20-meter Yagis as well. In the middle of this 40-meter tower at 160 feet is a horizontal Waller flag. It actually looks like a 4-element 15-meter Yagi, but it is fiberglass elements that have wire inside them, and there are actually 2 rectangles. And so that there's 2 flags, and they're in phase. That creates a directed pattern, can be used on 160 and 80 meters, and sometimes that is the best antenna on 160 for receiving. And again, it's on a ring rotator, so it can be rotated around the tower. And looking up the tower, you can see just the steel construction of the tower, very strong. You can see the ring rotators and a lot of aluminum. The 20-meter run tower, and there are 11 antenna systems here at K3LR. There are 11 operating positions, and so each one has its own antenna system. For the 80-meter second station, we use this high dipole. This is a modified M² rotating dipole for 80 meters with a coil in the middle that allows us to tune anywhere from 3.5 to 3.9 megahertz remotely. And then this is one of the 4 6-element 20-meter Yagis that is on the top of the tower. The tower top is 230 feet, but the 80-meter dipole sits at 245 feet. And looking at some of the other antennas coming down the tower on the 20-meter tower, and you can see here 2 of the 20-meter Yagis. That's one at 170 feet and one at 110 feet. And then in the middle of the tower, you can see these small boxes. Those are the relay boxes that actually perform the matching depending upon what Yagi is chosen by the operator or number of Yagis. For instance, if you feed all 4 of these Yagis together in a stacked array, the feed point impedance of paralleling all 4 of those is 12.5 ohms. Well, you have to match that back up to 50 ohms. And I do that with coax transformers right there on the tower. In the middle of this tower is also 2 W6NL Moxons. We used to use the Cushcraft Shorty 40s, but these Moxons are much better. The VSWR is less than 1.3 to 1 across the band, and they have great front to back and good gain. You can see the T elements there. That causes the physical loading. Electrically, they're 40-meter elements, but the elements are only about 46 feet long because of those T's. And these are very high performance Yagis. And looking up at the 20-meter tower, again, a very busy tower. And looking up at, this is the 10-meter run stack. These are 8-element Yagis on 50-foot booms. And there are 4 of them. You can just barely see the one above the garage there. That's at 33 feet. And then the one on top is at 135 feet. In 2018, it was unfortunate during field day, a drunk driver got off the road and hit the guy anchor, one of the guy anchors on the 20-meter tower, and the 20-meter tower had to be all replaced. All the antennas had to be replaced, and all the tower was replaced. You can see the new tower on the ground is the shiny painted tower, and the old tower is the dull painted tower in the foreground. And brought in a 100-ton crane to do the work. And so this was an insurance job, obviously. And you know it's a big crane when they bring in a crane to build the big crane. And that was the case here. And stacking the new Pyrod 24-inch face tower and the ring rotators attached, Philly strand guy wire. And the top of the tower is a top plate, and the DX Engineering a 3-inch thrust bearing. And also you can see just how massive the legs are, over 1 inch in diameter, solid steel legs, and just tremendous construction of these Pyrod towers. This is 2 out of the 4 6-element 20-meter Yagis, and they're very large antennas on 50-foot booms. Notice that the the reflector is on the bottom of this photo. So the next element is the driven element. And then that first director is very tightly coupled to the driven element. And that is known as an optimized wideband array, or OWA. And that develops a very low SWR and also drives the feed point impedance of the antenna right to 50 ohms. And so it operates as a matching device and also a bandwidth, BSWR bandwidth device. And so the SWR never gets above 1.2 to 1 from 14.0 to 14.35. And here's the top 20 meter Yagi going into place, going up the tower. And here with the tower crew at the top of the tower. And you notice there are steps on the mast so that we can get up to the 80 meter beam for any service work that we might have to do. Of course, this tower is over 200 feet, so you see the beacon and the guys putting things in. And by using FaceTime, I was able to see the Rig Expert plot as the crew scanned and swept the antenna at the top of the tower before we sent the crane home. We wanted to make sure that everything was A-OK. And taking a look a little more at the antenna construction, this is the driven element of that big 40 meter beam, 2.5 inches outside diameter. At the center, notice the 1-inch Garolite fiberglass plate to insulate it from the boom. And so the driven element is fed just like a dipole. We do use a ferrite bead coax choke that hooks in here, but and then you see the red tape. We have a rule here at K3LR that all the center conductors are right on red. So if you're on the tower, you always know the right-hand side has the center conductor, the coax. That's very important for stacking arrays. You have to make sure that everything in phase is done the exact same. Taking a look at the sag of the 40 meter elements, remember this antenna weighs 410 pounds. It's massive, but I'll tell you, these elements don't sag very much, only about 30 inches, which is quite good for a full-size 40 meter Yagi. And it's getting tested tonight because we are getting an ice storm here as we speak. And so we'll see how things look in the morning. But this is a very, very large antenna. The reflector on the left-hand side is almost 75 feet long. So it gives you some idea. And you can see the trucks going by on Interstate 80 there in the background of this photo. And this was 2019. I decided that the OWAs that had been up for over 25 years, that we might have worn out the aluminum. So I built new antennas and we replaced all 3 of the 40 meter OWA antennas. Here's the top 4-element 40 going up using that 100-ton crane again. And everything's working good. I am a big fan of the geochron, especially this new digital geochron that allows us to see where the sun is and where sunrise and sunset is. And this is on an 84-inch 4K Ultra TV. It is the largest and best TV in the house, and it is full-time dedicated to geochron. I know there was some talk about hardline. I like to keep losses. The rule here is that no antenna system shall have more than 1 dB of loss from the shack to the antenna. I accomplish that by using very large cable that you would normally see at VHF and UHF. For 10 and 15 meters, I use 1 5/8 inches. And also for the very long run on 160 meters to get out to the transmit array, it's 1,600 feet away. So that is also 1 5/8 inches. Speaking of 160 meters, here is this 3-element vertical parasitic array. This is the driven element, the center tower, that is 120 feet tall, and around it are 4 T-wires that are hung off of it. These T-wires are resonant as directors on 160 meters, and if you float these antennas, these T-wires, which means remove them from the ground, they completely disappear. Floating quarter waves are not resonant, and therefore the array is a omnidirectional array. However, 99% of the time, we use this array in a directional array. And the right-hand yellow element, if we ground that, it becomes a director connected to a radio system. The left-hand yellow element, if we ground that through a small inductor, we actually lower the resonant frequency that way, and it becomes a reflector. And the driven element is always the center tower. So you get a reflector, the driven element tower, and also a director. It's a 3-element vertical Yagi that can be rotated in 4 different directions very easily with relays at the bottom of the T-wires. And here's one of those control boxes at the bottom of the T-wire. It has 120 radials. Each radial is 130 feet long. And at the center tower, this is the driven element tower, a Pyrod tower, sitting on a broadcast style ceramic insulator. And this is the 1 5/8" hard line coming up to it. There's a matching box because this feed point impedance is 25 ohms, so we have to step it up to 50 ohms. And there are 300 radials, each 130 feet long, on 3 different ground ring radial systems here. This is an exceptional antenna on 160 meters, making over 5 dB of gain and 30 dB of front to back. And this is the radial system underneath the 2 4 squares for 80 meters. Originally, these verticals were high towers from high gain and 120 radials, 70 feet long, and using silver solder on a number 2 tin copper wire for the radial ring. And this is the center 4 towers, 2 towers for 1 4 square and 2 towers for the other. And lots of copper strap. 2 years ago, we replaced those high towers with aluminum towers that we welded all together. So all the sections have been welded together in a continuous piece, and they're 60 foot long. And then when you stand them up, you put a 2-inch pipe on top to resonate them. We call that a stinger. And we actually can tune each one of these verticals perfectly with a VNA, a Rig Expert antenna analyzer. And because they're welded together, there's no chance of a bad connection, which is great. And taking a look at the installation of these verticals using custom designed DX engineering insulators, using the same base pipes as the high towers used. But this is what one of the 4 squares looks like. You see the 4 aluminum towers. The tower in the background is the 160 tower, but this is one of the 4 squares on 80 meters, and there are 2 of them that operate in phase. And tuning of the verticals requires using vector network analyzers as well as handheld Rig Expert analyzers, making sure that each one of the vertical is identical, exactly the same, and tuned perfectly. This array has almost 9 dB of gain in the forward direction and 30 dB of front to back using the Comtech Systems hybrid combiners. We also have 4 squares on 40, 20, 15, and 10 meters. We use these for the second station receive, and the spacing is the same as what you saw on 20 meters. It's a quarter wavelength. In this case, a quarter wavelength is about 17 feet on 20 meters. On 80 meters, it's 70 feet. So in terms of wavelength, this is exactly the same size. The verticals are about 17 feet tall as well. And here's the 4 square for 15 meters. Again, quarter wave spacing. For 80 and 160 meters receiving, we use the high Z 8-circle antenna system. There are 8 23-foot verticals, and the spacing is 123 feet across the diagonal. And arranged in a circle, this array can be aimed in 45-degree increments, 0, 45, 90, etc. In the center is the control box that houses the hybrid combiners and couplers and splitters from high Z. And I also have put additional chokes in line on all of the feed lines going to those verticals to make sure that there is absolutely nothing radiating on the shields of these coaxes. That makes sure and ensures that the directive pattern stays put. Here I am one weekend tuning up the array with my friend W3YQ. We met on ADCW when we were both 12 years old, and we have been lifelong friends. And Tim met his now wife of 41 years on 80 meters as well. And so it's great to have W3YQ as my best friend. Wiring up all those chokes and wiring them into the high Z system. At the bottom of each one of the verticals for the high Z array is a little control box. And inside the control box is an element buffer amplifier, as well as two chokes on this end of the RG6 feed line. One choke per signal, one choke per power. These are the element buffers for all of the high Z arrays here. We have not only an 8 circle, but also a 4 square as well. Inside the choke box, this is number 31 ferrite with 26 turns of small 75 ohm coax, delivering over 10,000 ohms of common mode impedance. This is the house at K3LR, was built in 1865. I've completely restored it, and it is a beautiful home. But remember, radio had not even been close to being invented when this house was built. So everything has been added, water, central air, everything to this house. Electricity hadn't been invented in 1865 either. So, we've also added a world-class amateur radio station. A 50 kilowatt transformer from the Pennsylvania Power Company. If that fails, might even fail tonight in the ice storm, we have a 50 kilowatt generator. This is a 50 kW Kohler, and 8 seconds after we lose power, the Kohler generator comes online with an automatic transfer switch. This is an 8-cylinder Chevy engine running on natural gas. And this is the K3LR shack showing the 11 operating positions, 2 on 80, 2 on 40, 2 on 20, 2 on 15, 2 on 10, and 1 on 160 meters. And taking a look at another angle here, the 2 80-meter stations are on the left-hand side, and the 160 meters is against the wall. And you can see the outside exit. There are 2 exits to come into the shack in case of an emergency, of one exit being blocked. And we only have one multi-band amplifier here, and that's the Alpha 77 DX on the left-hand side. That was given to me by my good friend John Kansas, and so that sits there in memory of John. But all of the other amplifiers at K3LR are single-band Homeru amplifiers. We have 2 cable entrances for the heliacs and the control cables. Underground, we're in the basement, and you can see the 7/8 lines and one of the 1 5/8 and more 1 5/8 and 7/8 on the northeast cable entrance. Before I poured the floor for the shack, I put 13 8-foot ground rods in the floor. You can see a ground rod here just to the left of the electrical box, and that's Cadwelled on the top of the copper ground rod. And then number 2 tin copper is the copper bus going around picking up all 13. This sits right underneath the radio equipment, so it is only about 30 inches away to get to the ground rods. The operators having fun here at K3LR in the various DX contests. This is a CW contest and now a phone contest. The 2 operators are for 15 meters. And here's Dan N6MJ from Los Angeles. This was back in 2017. These guys opened up Phil and Dan operating together. Phil is in the CQing position, and Dan is in the search and pounce position. Working together, they had 2 hours of 340 QSOs each hour, which is an incredible amount. Is not the best hour we've had. There was one year we had 382 QSOs in 1 hour and 10 meters, but back-to-back 340 hours is pretty good, and the 10-meter station working good and great operators. This is the second station on 10 meters with its 4 rotator boxes, single band amplifiers, and of course logging computers. And speaking of the antennas, these are the custom antenna switches here at K3LR. This is for the 40 run station. So this controls those three, the 3 high stack of the 4 element OWAs at 260, 190, 120. And in this configuration, the operator has chosen to feed all 3 antennas. So 33% of the power goes into each one of these antennas. And typically they're all aimed at the same direction, but they don't have to be. Sometimes the band is open to Japan and Europe at the same time. So we'll put the 260 footer on Japan and maybe put the 190 and the 120 footers down at Europe. The operator can also choose to feed any into one individual Yagi, or the top 2 or the bottom 2 or the high and low. For 15, we talked about the 4 high stack. There are 10 combinations of antenna configurations that the operator can choose from. Here are 2 operators on 15 meters. This is N6TV and N6AN in the CQ Worldwide CW contest. The operators have to work very closely together because only one of their transmitters can be on the air at a time. There is a lockout box that prevents if they don't coordinate well, will prevent the overlap. But they have, the idea is while the run station is transmitting, the search and pounce station is receiving, and vice versa. But always have one transmitter going. They've chosen in this configuration to feed the bottom 3 antennas. So bot 3 is chosen, and that brings online the 120 over 80 over 40. And they do that to control the takeoff angle. When the bands are good, I expect in 2025 and 2026, we'll spend a lot of time on the lowest Yagi. That will be by far the best antenna with the highest takeoff angle for the higher solar flux conditions. And there's also a heads-up display so the operator can see which antennas are being excited. And I love the Drake W4 watt meters, but after 40 years, we had to replace the SO239s. They do go bad. And I am a connector freak. I get the best quality connectors I can find, and I use them throughout. And by far, the DX Engineering brand and Amphenol brands are all you will find here at K3LR. And size matters. This is the rotor boxes for the 3 high stack on 40 meters. Size does matter. That 3 high stack on 40 is the largest 40 meter antenna array in the world. And I have heard recordings of how we sound in Bangkok, Thailand, in New Delhi, India on this thing, and it is absolutely amazing. This is an absolute dream come true antenna system. And taking a little closer look at the Homeru 8877 amplifiers, we run 1500 watts, no more, no less. And without a band switch, these amplifiers are very simple to construct, a 4,000 volt power supply on the floor, and they run all day and all night, no problem at all. This is the run station on 20 meters, the 4 high stack. You see the green heron boxes. There are 28 green herons in service here, and then I've got 6 spares down in the DX barn. But the green heron rotator boxes are phenomenal. They are very reliable. And the 2 stations on 20 meters, the search and pounce station is on the left. He's got a 2 high stack. That's why you see the 2 rotor boxes there as well. This is 10 meters. These guys have had a little bit more time on their hands lately, but they're ready to go and get back in the fray. This is 160 meters. A lot of receive antenna boxes here. We have a lot of receive antennas at K3LR. In addition to the stuff you saw, we also have some a DX loop, which is a new DX engineering product that's coming out, and phasing controls, combining controls. I operate 160 meters. during the multi CW events. And John, N2NC, is the 160 meter operator on SSB multi contests here. This is the control for the horizontal Waller flag. Also using the DX Engineering NCC now 2 to combine receive antennas. We actually take that 5-element transmit array and combine it with the high Z array. And by doing that, you can get a very good directive pattern that gives you more receive pop, more receive directivity and signal. And we do have YL operators that operate here from time to time. This is Sandy, DL1QQ. She's also N0QQ. She spent her senior year of high school as a foreign exchange student in Minnesota. And that's where she got the N0QQ. When she left to go back to Germany, she went to the police academy, spent 10 years with the German FBI, and now is a police officer working in the fraud department at her local township or town police in Germany. She is a frequent visitor to the US and a fabulous contest operator. We use the Bose QC15s. These are noise canceling headsets for all the operators here. And also we use the ICOM IC7851. Is every position here has the 7851, and it is an exceptional radio with great performance, the best in class ergonomics, and they don't die. They absolutely do not have trouble, and that's very important. I'm the host here at this operation. I also have to operate either 160 or 80 meters and take care of the needs of up to 12 operators. So we can't have radio equipment that's breaking. The IC7851, an amazing piece of gear. This is my friend Al, N5UM. I lived in Oklahoma City for 14 years. Al and I became best friends, and he comes up and operates 75 meters with me on SSB. And this is Al at 4:15 in the morning, taking a little power nap during the time after European sunrise and before the band gets open to Japan. Also, please note on the back of the computer, you can see the new computers here at K3LR. For the last 4 years, we've been using Intel NUCs. That's NUC, 4 inches by 4 inches by 1.5 inches thick. They run on 13.8 volts, RFI quiet, and full Windows PC. To share those phased 4 squares between the 2 stations on 80 meters, we have a custom designed 80 meter XL twin turbo +2 switch that allows seamless switching back and forth between the 2 stations. And you can imagine if you've been on field day and you know, we're getting trashed by 40 meters into 20 meters and 20 meters into 15 and 10 meters, you can imagine what it's like to try and operate 6 transmitters simultaneously on 160 through 10 meters with 1500 watts and very high gain antenna systems. So these are high power harmonic filters that beat down harmonics. One of the operators said, geez, those are the size of caskets. So those are where harmonics go to die. They are originally designed and built for the K2GL N2AA station out in Tuxedo Park, New Jersey, but they have made their way to K3LR. When the operators aren't operating, they are hanging out at the DX barn. It's got the DX sign. That's not DX engineering. That's DX gas from back in the 50s and 60s. I saw this sign when I lived in Oklahoma, had it shipped up here, and it is phenomenal. After every contest, we turn on the DX sign. And inside the DX barn, very comfortable living area, restrooms, showers, and kitchen facilities, sleeping for 8. And in the back of the sleeping bunk room is over 100,000 QSL cards that have been sent to K3LR over the years. The operators have fun here. Remember, these guys take time away from their families, time off of work. They pay for their own plane tickets to come and have a shot at winning. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't. This is a phone contest with K1AR and N2NT. One of the best operating pair you'll ever come across, and they are the anchormen on 20 meters here at K3LR. And KM3T on 20 meters in the middle of the night, you got to check, get your Z's when you can. He's just waiting for the band to open. And we use the DX Engineering foot switch, which I had a large part in designing and making sure that what we sell at DX Engineering is bulletproof. As they say in Silicon Valley, I eat our dog food. You know, you have to, everything here at K3LR came from DX Engineering, and I'm very proud of the products that we make at DXE. This is that lockout box to make sure that only one transmitter at a time on that one band is on the air. This is a custom designed lockout box that keeps the 7851 quiet if the other one is transmitting. And there's a little aluminum box with an LED on it in front of the mult station operator. When it's off like this, it's okay to transmit. When it's on, that means that the run station is transmitting. So that's how that works. And also you see the heads up there for the 20 mult position. The second stations on 40, 15, and 10 all have received 4 squares that they can listen on. And that's important, the receive 4 squares. Remember, we're the second station has to hear on the same band segment that we're transmitting on. So having the 4 squares with horizontal transmitting antennas on the run station gives almost 30 dB of polarization diversity. And so that's very important. And you can see the controls for the 4 square on the bottom. On the top is the 2 Yagis for the 20 mult station. And he's selected BIP, which is both in phase. He can also select BOP, both out of phase. Operators having fun here at K3LR, and that's what it's all about. Otis NP4G, very fluent in Spanish and English, Portuguese. That's important on 10 meters. And again, these guys have had way too much time on their hands lately, but they're going to be busy as the sunspot cycle improves. Justin G4TSH from London, England. Happy guy, comes in every November. Not this November, but just wait this fall. These guys will be back. We'll all be vaccinated and ready to go. And here is just about every chair is filled in this photo. You can see 20 meters with K1TO there on the right, and then 10 meters as you go around the table. One operator on 15, I'm on 160. Justin and Phil over there on 80 in the middle table, and then 40 meters with W2RQ and N2NC on the left-hand table. You can see 3 out of the 4 geochrons that are here. 2 of them are digital. One of them is the old analog geochron straight ahead with 300 gears in it. It's just a great timepiece. We do have a focus on youth here at K3LR. This was 2019 WPX phone contest. This is Bryant, KG5HVO, and also Violetta, KM4ATT, as they operated the massive 20-meter station. And so they were operating in the multi-2 category. But again, Bryant is the run operator, Violetta is the search and pounce. They did very well. This is VT7DZO and K6JO on 40 meters. And so this is after the contest, and the youth are writing thank you cards to the people that donated more than $5,000 to Team Exuberance to defray the costs of travel to come to K3LR. This is the Team Exuberance team. Remember, these kids made all the QSOs. None of us parents and advisors made any of the QSOs. The kids made every one of the QSOs. Marty, NN1C, had designed a playbook that said this would be an overwhelming success if they could work 3,800 contacts. and he had showed every hour how they were going to get there. When the dust settled and the clock kicked 0 Zulu on Sunday night, they had worked over 6,000 contacts. They were #1 in North America, #4 in the world. And HA8RT, Tommy, came from Hungary. It's the first time anyone in Tommy's family has been outside of Europe. And Tommy flew to the US. And of course, just a tremendous operating team, Marty and Bryant. They did a great job. And they're all hotshot CW operators. Remember, none of these kids had to learn CW to get their licenses. They're all extra class, but they're all hotshot CW operators. In fact, Bryant, KG5HBO, the last time at the Huntsville Ham Fest, he beat everybody in the place. He copied 64 words a minute. So they're going to come back and do a WPX CW contest here at K3LR as soon as it's safe. I don't know if it'll be this May. Probably won't be this May, but they will be back, and we will do it again before they're all out of college and getting married. So great experience. They're all spawning other youth activities now that they see just how much fun it is to organize and do these contests with you. Here's Michael, W3MLJ from Pittsburgh, with his dad during the K2M 13 Colony event. I host K2M every year here at K3LR, and the Skyview Radio Club brings operators, and we have a great time. We get visitors from all over the world here. Here's Ham from Finland. Also, here's Riley Hollingsworth, K4ZDH, formerly with the FCC Enforcement Bureau, and famous de-expeditioner Hal, W8HC, visiting K3LR. And analytics are important at K3LR. We keep track of our QSOs and countries on each band for every year. So we have been operating in the multi category since 1992, and having a great time competing with some of the best stations in the world. We also contribute to the reverse beacon network. This used to be the computer rack that it took to drive the 6 Sdr receivers, and now we've replaced that with the 6 NUCs, and they're even more powerful than those big rack-mounted computers. And these are the 6 Sdr Perseus receivers, dedicated one to each one of the contest bands. They copy all the CW stations on those bands and then report them to the K3LR network, as well as the reverse beacon network. And here is there's lots of ferrite here at K3LR to make sure that everything stays very quiet. There are no wall warts here. There are no iPhone chargers here. Everything is a linear power supply. And so everything is quiet. We make coffee and tea 1 cup at a time. Takes lots of food to power a multi team. Here's our chef Sal, WM2H from Houston. He takes care of the kitchen. He's a great operator, but he likes to cook more than he likes to operate. So he takes care of us smoking things, and N2NC always reminds me an army travels on its stomach. I make breakfast on CW, and N2NC makes breakfast on the phone contests, and the operators eat while they operate. We use the wind test contest logging software, and here you can see the logging entries, working JAs on 160 meters one morning, and then the 40-meter QSO there is E2A in Thailand, and keeps track of our final score. And boy, I can't wait for a line like that on 10 meters again. 3,200 QSOs, 38 zones, and 170 countries. That'll be 2025 or 2026. I'm a voracious QSLer, sending about 50 pounds of cards to the ARRL outgoing bureau every year. I like T-shirts, Team K3LR and CW. After the contest is over, we are on the real 3830, reporting our scores. And we have a pretty good idea who won at that time. And we also operate in the RTTY contests. Sometimes we win an award. And taking a look at the crew, This is a phone crew during the ARL DX contest. Sal brought up his girlfriend Liv to be the sous chef, and but this is the whole team. ILTHRS. I love this ham radio stuff. Here's one of the CW teams from 2014 and a 2018 team looking sharp in our K3LR contest crew ICOM t-shirts. And the reason we do it, we're best friends. We've some of these guys I've known for 50 years, so it's and you can't do this remotely like this. There's nothing that replaces this. One of the things that I'm most proud of is the during normal times, about 20 clubs every year would come to visit K3LR and get a tour. This is the University of Pittsburgh Pitt Panther W3YI club with their club advisor, 1 ME0B. And they all came up. We spent the day looking at the antennas, sitting around the radio room, getting on the air, talking about amateur radio, talking about college life, and talking about life after college. And we've had clubs as far away as 5 hours driving that come here for a tour. And I always welcome people. I like to share my dream with anybody who's interested in wireless and the magic of amateur radio. So that is, Brian, that's my slide deck. And I can take any questions.
Rich, Tim, I can't. There's a lot of great stuff in there. I know some of us are making comments in the background. I don't know if you were watching the chat window, but you know, just the 7851s blew us away, and then you have those at every station, and then the towers, of course, and all the antennas. It's an amazing setup, and obviously a small club like us, we're not going to be putting up anything along those lines. But my first question to you is, because we have to turn this into something that our club, there's a lot of good inspiration in a lot of what you've got here. And if you were advising a smaller club, you know, here in southeastern Kentucky, active but smaller, take an aspect of K3LR and say, what could this club build as a way of getting started with possibly a multi type competition?
So you know, this didn't happen overnight, Brian. As I said, this is 34 years of my life. I don't have any other hobbies. This is it.
This is it.
This is it. So I put all my energy into this. And what I would recommend for the club is that you buy the best radio equipment you can afford. A lot of times, you know, clubs will say, geez, you know, we bought these $500 radios, and you know, there's interference, or there's noise, or there's harmonics. Getting good radio equipment is really important. You don't have to go crazy like the 7851, but get good equipment. And then, you know, the grounding and bonding of how you put together a station is really important, and you have to pay attention to that. Many clubs like to have 2 or 3 or 4 operating positions so that you can have multiple operators having fun. You know, it doesn't even have to be a contest. Maybe one guy's doing QRP, one guy's doing VHF, UHF, but really pay attention to grounding and bonding and do it right.
Right. And we focused a lot in the last year and a half on our emergency communications trailer, and a lot of our efforts in fundraising and so forth went towards that. But as we go into the future, one of these stations, you know, just a nice high tower with a really nice antenna or 2 up on it, and the ability to rotate and all the rest of it, that's probably, you know, again, inspiration from K3LR. Building a station like that, I think, is definitely in our future. And I agree. We've talked about this before. Grounding and bonding, putting your money in your antenna as well. You know, the antenna is kind of like speakers in a hi-fi system. If you've got the best hi-fi but really crappy speakers, it's not really going to help you very much. But a good antenna, low loss, good grounding and bonding, and like you said, a nice radio to connect to it, and then set up multiple stations. That's definitely a project for us in the future. Thanks for that. I put out a question there. Anybody else have a question? You can either come off mute, or you can put it down in the chat window for K3LR tonight. Don't be bashful. We got some talkers in this club. Come on.
Maybe you can ask a question about DX engineering if you want to.
Hey, how about that? I've used some DX engineering equipment. I'm sure many of us have. It's a great resource to have online to purchase what you need. In fact, I built a linked dipole from some equipment from DX engineering with the insulators and so forth, which was really nice. What are some antenna choices there at DX Engineering that we might use on this station that we're considering building in the future? What would be possibly? I know you do a lot on 80 meters, but maybe as the bands get better, would 10 or 20 or something? 20 is not bad now, but what maybe an antenna recommendation from DX Engineering for getting started with our really nice tower setup?
Well, a good tower, a good roam tower,
You want to finish watching that movie?
that might be guide,
Airplane movie?
would really.
Go ahead there, K3LR. I had to mute somebody.
Yeah, no problem. A good guide tower, Brian, and of course, my favorite tri-band Yagi is the DX Engineering Skyhawk.
Skyhawk.
I'm the co-designer of that antenna. It's been out for 20 years, and it is a tremendous tri-band antenna. So take a look at that. I think that would be a good antenna to start building around.
Absolutely, and a lot of us are thinking to ourselves, well, we don't even have the space for what you have, but that's not to say that the club might not be able to find a location or use an existing location and maybe set up a really nice tower and antenna array at some point in the future. Again, thoughts for future projects, guys, thoughts for future projects. And like you said, Tim, it's 34 years in the making. It's not something that we're going to do tomorrow. This is stuff that we'll be doing over several years. All right, any more questions from the peanut gallery tonight? Austin, you came off mute for a second. Did you have a question? Anybody at all?
Yeah, that was actually an accident, but I did have a question. The balance that you have there, the chokes for the common mode, what kind of coax did you say you used in that, and how many turns are on that number 31 toroid? I was interested in making something like that, and I was just curious.
Yeah, that's real small 75 ohm coax. I think it's either RG316 or RG320. But you can't really transmit through it because it's so small. That's a receive only choke, and there's 26 turns.
Okay, that's cool. Would you recommend putting something like that on a SDR if you had some other antennas nearby transmitting?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for the question. Anybody else?
Yes, please. Any more questions while we've got him? And also, while we're waiting, K3LR, several of us were chatting again while you were presenting that we're going to have to come up and give you a visit and film a video for our channel. We're certainly going to put this talk up on the channel, but we'd like to come up and give you a visit once this whole pandemic thing hopefully quiets down at some point. Who knows? Maybe towards the latter end of this summer if you've got some time. So
that'd be great. And Brian, just work with Terry. She maintains the tour schedule, and we'll spend a whole day with you.
That'd be awesome. Any other questions, folks, please, while we've got him? And you can use the chat window if you don't want to come off mute, or you can come off mute.
Out of curiosity, this is Clyde. What kind of, what have you noticed to be some good SDR receivers?
One of my favorite SDR receivers that we don't sell it, but it is one of my favorites, is the AirSpy. That is a really good SDR. And of course, the Perseuses, we don't sell that either. That's what I use for the CW skimmer here. But AirSpy is a really good one.
And how much do those run, Tim? Do you know off the top of your head?
Like $180, $190.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not much more, or that's about the same as the SDR play and all that stuff. So
Yeah, we sell the DX Patrol for $100 at
right.
DX Engineering. That's another good one. If you don't want to spend a lot of money, the DX Patrol is real good.
Great question, Clyde. Thanks for that.
Hey, Tim, this is Chris, KY4CKP. Obviously, you're set up for a more permanent solution for a lot of your radio. Do you do anything for mobile radio? And if so, what kind of equipment do you use?
That's a great question, Chris. I actually did have a mobile setup in my last vehicle. It was a Chevy Suburban, and what I used was the ICOM IC7000. I really love that radio. Nice color screen, 100 watts, covered VHF and UHF as well as HF. And then I had a screwdriver antenna, and I had that on the back of the Suburban, and I had it so that I could remotely move between the bands. And I had I have a modified, you know how they have the coffee cup holder up there. So I made a coffee cup holder compatible mount for a bencher key. And I actually was CW mobile, and I would work other guys on CW that were mobile too, going to work in the morning. And one time I butt dialed my boss, and he said, "What band are you on?" And he says, "I think that's distracted driving." And I said, "No, it's not distracted driving." I said, "I can send CW at 35 words a minute and drive 70 miles an hour. I'm not looking at anything. I'm just sending CW." So I had a lot of fun with that.
All right, last call for questions. Last call.
I've got another little bit of a question.
Go ahead, Clyde.
This is Clyde. I'm looking at a noisy location where I'm at, and I know that you're in a good position, or it looks like you're in a pretty good position to not have so much electrical noise. But where I am, one of the reasons I asked about the SDR that you might have experience with is the unit that I've used is the FunCube Dongle Pro, and it works really well as a cheap SDR, but noise gets into it. In my area, have you had to come up with some kind of idea in all of your exploits that would give you something of a good ground to get rid of that noise? Or do we have to resort to quarter wavelength stubs?
Well, if that noise is coming from wall warts or LED lighting within your house, the first thing to do is to shut down all the power in the house and see if the noise goes away. A lot of times it's self-inflicted by wall warts all over the place, and chargers, LED lights, furnaces, all sorts of things can cause noise.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. What I was going to ask is, though, is let me get my mind reoriented here. I do have a lot of noise, and the only time I pick the noise up is when I'm on an antenna. I have tried to receive it inside the house, and I haven't. And the only thing I was asking for you is that you might have had some experience with a quality receiver and noise, but you probably are pretty quiet where you're at.
Well, I made it quiet.
Way to go. I hear you.
As I said, I took all the wall warts out. If you turn the power off in the house, it's no quieter than with the power on. And then I've worked extensively with our local power company to make sure that every insulator, every lightning arrestor is perfect. And I've even worked with some of my neighbors that had wall wart trouble. And they said, when I knocked on their door, they said, "Let me get this right. I'm interfering with you." So it is not easy to do.
No, it isn't.
It is hard to get rid of the noise, but you can do it if you're diligent about it. But the first thing to do is to put your SDR on a battery and shut the power off to the house and see what happens.
Well said. That's where I'm headed.
Okay,
you must
Clyde.
have seen my thinking. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
righty. Thanks, Clyde, for that. And then we had one last question. We're going to wrap it up tonight. To be quite honest, Tim, with all the radiation that you've been exposed to over the years, you must glow in the dark. And we just wanted to ask, do you glow in the dark? And if so, how bright is it?
Well, no, I don't glow in the dark, but this is certainly this is a dream station. But the idea is, for those of you who are just starting out in this hobby, which it's a great hobby, and you don't need to have this much stuff to have fun. You can have fun with one radio and one piece of wire and just get on the air. When I was very young and got started in this hobby, I visited some stations that were just like this. And it was an inspiration to me that said, someday I'd like to, be in that position where I can build a big station, but you don't have to have a big station to have fun. 100 watts in a wire, and you can work the world and enjoy this great hobby. You're going to have great friends. And so certainly use tonight's presentation as an inspiration. Don't be overwhelmed by it. And maybe some of the things that I talked about you don't completely understand now, but you can always ask questions. You can always email me, K3LR@K3LR.com, and I'd be happy to talk to you and answer any questions, give you any guidance. And if you need help with amateur radio equipment, please give us a holler at DX Engineering. It's dxengineering.com. I've got a great team of guys on the phones that can answer questions for you. They've got big time experience, and we'd love to help you have fun with the greatest hobby in the world, amateur radio.
Well said. Well, Tim Duffy, K3LR, thank you so much for your presentation this evening. I'm serious. We will probably work with Terry, see if we can come up and do a tour. And I'd like to possibly get an idea, an inspirational idea, looking at just one of the antenna stations that you've got there at the farm, and see if we can maybe recreate something like it here at LCARA. Everybody, put thank yous together there in the chat window for Tim Duffy, K3LR, here for Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association, hands-on with LCARA. Tim, great evening. Appreciate your time and efforts.
Thanks very much, Brian, and thanks to all the club members. And I hope to hear you on the air. I'm going to be on 40 meters in 2 hours. So
all righty, sir. Take care and have a great evening, and be safe out there with the pandemic and this nasty weather.
Okay.
That's Tim Duffy, K3LR.
73.